This week's Loud House vs. Casagrandes will focus on family relatives helping out a family member's dream come true, because as far as I'm concerned, I've actually wanted to do a video centering around this topic. Here's the thing, even if I'm not really a family person, I can instantly see the importance of an older sibling helping out a younger sibling in order to get what they want, since that it's really rare for them to get something while being overshadowed by most of the family. Granted, CJ isn't overshadowed, same goes to Lana, but when it comes to how we get more focus towards the other characters and not CJ and Lana, that is really saying something. In Wheel and Deal, Lana wants to participate in a car where Bobby Fletcher is gonna be at, and she really wants to build a car from scratch, not using Lola's car, building a car from scratch. And since this is Lana who wants to do a lot more by doing the things on her own, well, not only on her own, she has Lincoln by her side, but mainly just trying to do things the right way, by winning the race the correct way. I'm gonna be really honest with you, as much as Lincoln really dropped the ball completely against Lana's wishes, that doesn't automatically mean that he is considered the problem of the entire episode, but I'm gonna get to the problems later. In All in the Family, CJ wants to spend family night at a pirate show because it's one of the places that he enjoys the most. And similar to Lincoln helping out Lana in the Loud House episode, Ryan is helping out CJ in this episode. And that's literally where all the comparisons come to an end, because the rest of the episode has the same format of a sibling wants to get something with the help of another sibling, while the antagonist gets in the way. Though granted, when it comes to how All in the Family is handled, Wheel and Deal, knowing full well that it's mainly focusing on Lincoln and Lana, not to mention that the environment that they're in is much more bigger in comparison to the pirate show from the Casagrandes. They really wanted this Lana episode to be really special since it's focusing on her. Yes, this episode is about Lana and Lincoln, since that Lincoln is helping out, but since we haven't gotten to Lincoln's role in this, I'm just gonna say this right now, what Ryan is doing in the pirate show with CJ, it was a lot less complicated in comparison to Lincoln's situation in this episode. As much as what Lincoln did in the second half of the episode was against Lana's wishes, at the same time, since that we're looking at this in his perspective on what the future would have been like if Lana ends up in last place, she will never get the approval from Bobby Fletcher. Though granted, at the same time, even if Lincoln did help out Lenny trying to get her driver's license, even though that backfired due to Loie, he doesn't see the value of what Bobby Fletcher is in Lana's eyes. So in all honesty, for Lincoln's way of handling the situation isn't a problem, it's just that the fact that he's just trying to make things right for Lana by being in first place while getting the approval from Bobby Fletcher. And considering that the game that he and Clyde played earlier had nothing to do with NASCAR related, it's really saying something that he sees racing in a different way in comparison to Lana, who enjoys NASCAR. Now, I understand that NASCAR isn't a thing in the Loud House, but I'm just proving my point of what Lana prefers in racing. In All in the Family, since that the scale is a lot more smaller in comparison to the Loud House episode, not to mention that this episode came out before the Loud House episode, I'm gonna be fair towards it. Since that CJ enjoys pirates and the fact that he prefers going to the pirate show rather than trying something new, it's really difficult for CJ to pick something new for a change. Which is why I think that this entire episode alone, focusing on Ryan helping out CJ to be on stage with the pirates, is literally the only thing that she would do in order to get the approval from CJ while making them happy at the same time. And what I mentioned about this being a much more smaller scale is mainly the fact that the pilots themselves performing this show aren't as popular as Bobby Fletcher, but that's mainly the fact that Bobby Fletcher is a racer. Well, it's a lot more complicated than performing a show in front of multiple families and kids. Though then again, that's not really something to go against, considering that what they're doing is mainly their thing, while Bobby Fletcher is doing her own thing. And considering that Ralphie gets more screen time in comparison to Chandler, I'm gonna be really honest with you, it's probably a good thing that Ralphie has a change of heart towards the end by being remorseful and not being this show's version of Chandler, because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm ever going to get back to Becky, I'm just gonna say this right now, this show seriously needs to cut down on copying a lot of material from the Loud House. Like, it maybe do good in some parts while doing elements much more better in comparison to the Loud House, but at the same time, at this point, you really need to draw the line, and I think that they did that when it comes to Ralphie, but when it comes to other characters, not so much. Now let's get into the goals of Lincoln and Ryan in these episodes, considering that the goal that Lincoln needs to achieve is way more complicated in comparison to Ryan, and as much as it went against Lana's wishes, keep in mind, you would still do what Lincoln did in this episode regardless. During the race, with the assistance of Lincoln's friends, they helped out by giving Lana a shortcut to catch up with the other racers. Zach using a plunger that is connected to a rope to help pull Lana and Lincoln up from a steep hill. Using Liam's pigs in order to get the other racers to slow down while giving Lana the opportunity to lift herself over the mud and the pigs. And finally, using Stella's 2 drones to push them forward to get extra speed. Okay, I'll admit, that is way too much, especially since that goes overboard when it comes to cheating. But the thing is, the more I think about it, when Lana expressed that she doesn't care about the other racers, Lincoln was thinking in a different way that she didn't think about Lana completely on what she really wants. Like, in Snow Way Out, well, Lana wants to meet Bobby Fletcher, Lincoln didn't care about Bobby Fletcher whatsoever, since that he really wants to eat all the hamburgers at Bob and Burger. But the difference is that Lana was the main character of that episode, and she was really thinking about Bobby Fletcher the entire time. In this episode, she's trying to be a lot more honorable towards Bobby Fletcher by doing the race her way, since that she doesn't care about the other racers. And believe me when I say this, even though that there are some occasions where Lincoln can make things worse for the other characters, I'm gonna be really honest with you, this has that format, but does it correctly. And to be perfectly real with you, that is something that I want to see involving the relationship of the siblings, since that it happened in Funny Business between Lincoln and Luann. Even if it may be done differently, at the same time it has that premise of Lincoln doing something that Luann would get really sick of, to the point that it's the same reaction of what Lana has in the episode. And the reason why I say that is because Lana thinks of what she contributes in the same way as Luann contributes into doing shows in front of children. Mainly of what she contributes most when it comes to professions, while Lincoln doesn't, and that is racing. Believe me when I say this, even if Lincoln did bad deeds in this episode, keep in mind, Lana is just trying to win the race in her own way, and Lincoln is just trying to make things right for his sister, even if it's not in the way of what Lana wanted. And since I've said everything in Wheel and Deal, I'm gonna be really honest with you. In comparison to All in the Family, the odds of what Ryan went through are nowhere near as difficult. Because as far as I'm concerned, since that CJ doesn't care about what happens as long as he plays the part on being with the pirates on stage, there's really nothing complicated involving around that. With Ryan's main goal is mainly just getting CJ on stage, which results Ralphie to take a birthday pirate hat from a little girl in order to be on stage, which results Ryan to take matters into her own hands by telling everyone that Ralphie just stole a birthday hat from a little girl. Yeah, this is literally Ryan improving as a character to the point that she knows what's really wrong when someone like Ralphie just takes someone else's birthday hat and claims it as his own. Then again, he got his just desserts at the end. Well, he gave the hat back to the girl while she stomps on his foot. So anyway, the main focus of the episode centering around pirates. I'm gonna be really honest with you, as much as I enjoyed the ways from the Loud House episode, I can't deny that the action sequence from this episode is entertaining, considering that the fact that the Casagrandes managed to be part of the show instead of just Ryan and CJ, while the actors are playing along with it, it's really good, and believe me, it really shows that the pirates are really trying way too hard to convince the audience that this isn't staged. You know, as much as what Lincoln did in the Loud House episode was minimum considering that he was in a car with Lana the entire time, I would rather be with what is going on in All in the Family, considering that a lot can happen, and the unexpected can happen when it's done right. Though granted, when it comes to the racing aspect from the Loud House, even if I'm not a fan of NASCAR, it's still a difficult choice to pick. Though then again, considering that in this episode, it really sums up a lot that they really want to make an episode involving CJ, since that this is one of the first episodes of Season 1. So, thinking about this episode for a second, even if it may be the most basic episodes from the Casagrandes, you have to admit that they at least tried to make the characters at least likable, since that CJ was willing to help out Ryan while nearly being fallen off the plank or jumped off the plank. And to be perfectly real with you, whenever I think about CJ helping out Ryan, even if they don't have a close relationship, that is saying something, considering that Ryan can't have a close relationship with Carlotta in one of the Season 4 episodes involving the Casagrandes from the Loud House. You know, in comparison of Lincoln deserving more bonding episodes with his sisters in later seasons, I don't think that Ryan needs those episodes involving her relatives, with the exceptions of Maria and Bobby, but that's literally my opinion. I'm just saying, after watching this show and the main series, it really feels like that the biggest difference of them all is that Ryan's relationship with her family, even if it may be better than Lincoln's relationship with his family, it doesn't need a lot of screen time. Mainly her being paired with a relative as the main focus of the episode. Though granted, considering that the people working on the later seasons are developing different techniques, which results them dropping the Lincoln and sister bonding episodes in the future, I'm starting to convince that it's either for the best or for the worst, because sometimes it's for the worst, but at the same time it's mainly for the best. Mainly thinking about the bad involving the Loud sisters, even though Lana in this episode is good. There was a lot to discuss, and yet at the same time I can't be able to reconsider on making that possible video a reality. And that video is what I have in mind involving the lore and characters, but keep in mind it's gonna take a while. So the only thing that I can say is that Lin Jr. defended Lincoln and Lana after the insults from Chandler, and get used to this because this is literally the only moments where Lin Jr. defends Lincoln in some other capacity. What a shame. So, the only thing that's worth noting in Wheel and Deal is that its ending is mainly Bobby Fletcher waiting for Lana and Lincoln after completing the race the correct way of what Lana wanted. And since that this is the second or third time we get to see Bobby Fletcher in the Loud House, I'm just going to assume that she gave unimpressed looks towards the other competitors who waste completely, all the while not appreciating them from not making their cars from scratch, which is kind of similar to the Cars movie, which is a Pixar film. Well, even after Lightning McQueen loses in third place, but allowing the legend to go in second place after the antagonist knocked him out of the race, and the manager or someone who's in charge of Dynaco gives him the opportunity to become the face of Dynaco. This is basically similar to that, except that there was no one getting injured, and the fact that, well, to be perfectly real with you, if Lincoln gets punished in this, in some of the capacity, then it will probably make the ending somewhat unpleasant. But at the same time, it's a Lana episode, and since that Lana is one of the only Loud siblings that doesn't go too far when it comes to the treatment that Lincoln gets when it comes to the mistreatment, it's honestly okay. I'm just saying, if we had an opportunity to see Bobby Fletcher again, and it's mainly the fact that she's one of the characters that have been cut out, if in the same as the other characters who are friends with the Loud sisters, I'm going to assume that the original plans was to have Lana be part of a huge race involving, not really part of a huge race, but being part of a pit crew while Bobby Fletcher is racing on the track, and to focus her on just trying to adjust what being a pit crew person is all about and what it's really like. I'm pretty sure it would have been a great opportunity, but at the same time, considering that we keep getting new characters in the later seasons without any returning characters, it's somewhat of a shame, because to be perfectly honest with you, it took me a while for me to get used to Bobby Fletcher. I may not be a fan of NASCAR, but considering that Lana is into the stuff that Bobby Fletcher is when it comes to racing, and she is so into all, it's literally the same ways as the other characters being into their idols a lot more. So there's no different here on the fact that I found Bobby Fletcher in this episode, especially in Snow Way Out, somewhat getting used to as time went by. Though then again, it's mainly other reasons of getting used to a character, but less said about that the better, and Summer Palooza 4 Beach Paradise is coming to an end this week, so moving on. So anyway, the episode I prefer out of the two is Wheel and Deal. Not to say that All in the Family is bad, I still enjoy it, but at the same time, I appreciate of what Wheel and Deal did, especially since that this episode came out after All in the Family. So in all honesty, it really feels like that this episode is somewhat of an improvement over the Casagrandes episode. And when it comes to CJ, there's a possibility that he's gonna be part of these videos again, but who knows. The Loud House episode, Wheel and Deal gets an 8.5 out of 10, while the Casagrandes All in the Family gets a 7.5 out of 10.